This is how the first humans will survive on Mars. It seems like everyone has Mars on their mind these days. NASA wants to send humans to the Red Planet by 2030, and SpaceX wants to get there even sooner, with plans to have people there by 2024. Mars is a favorite theme in Hollywood with movies like The Martian, but most of them aren't addressing the biggest questions. Once we get there, how will we survive long term? The atmosphere of Mars is mostly carbon dioxide. The surface of the planet is too cold to sustain human life, and the planet's gravity is a mere 38% of Earth's. Plus, the atmosphere on Mars is equivalent to about 1% of Earth's atmosphere at sea level. That makes getting to the surface tricky. How will NASA get there? How can we hope to survive against such odds? Let's find out. Welcome to Space World. In today's video, we are going to talk about how the first humans on Mars will survive and make a living for themselves. So, if you want to know more about it, then stay with us until the end of the video. Traveling to Mars is just the first leg of the journey, and when Earth and Mars are closest to each other, the trip will take a mere 260 days. Once we get there, the challenge becomes landing on the planet's surface. First of all, what type of landing system will get our astronauts and colonists safely to the surface? Back in 2007, scientists considered 4 possible solutions to get astronauts to the surface. One idea was a legged landing system based off the lunar lander. This system could provide the option to both land and take off from the Red Planet. Secondly, the SLS system, or Sky Crane Landing System, would use population systems to lower rovers and other equipment onto the surface. This system can unload cargo and take off again. The third design discussed was an airbag landing system, which would rely on a rocket that cuts its thrust above the surface of the planet, as well as an airbag for the equipment to land on. However, this wouldn't be the best option for people. Lastly, scientists considered touchdown sensing. Equipment senses the surface and the landing site and compensates accordingly. Years later, scientists have other ideas on how to land manned missions to Mars. According to Richard McGuire Davis, Jr., Assisting Director for Science and Exploration and co-leader of the Mars Human Landing Site Study at NASA, landers will have to dive deep into the Martian atmosphere and skirt closer to the surface than we have done in the past, since the Martian atmosphere is thickest near the surface. When asked about the previous methods of technology mentioned previously, he said, "The lander is so heavy that many technologies will not work, such as airbags, sky cranes, and parachutes. In fact, to slow down, we will be heavily reliant on jets." But how heavy will the crewed missions be? This supersonic retro-propulsion technology is required to be able to deliver the projected 20 metric ton spacecraft to the surface of Mars. For comparison, the Curiosity rover was only 1 metric ton. In addition, NASA is already considering what kind of habitation we'll need to survive on the surface of Mars. 6 companies began designing possible habitat prototypes in 2016, with completed prototypes expected in 24 months. All these habitats will likely have a few things in common. They will have to be self-sustaining, sealed against the thin atmosphere, and capable of supporting life for extended periods without support from Earth. To get an idea of what to expect, think about the ISS. The International Space Station has really taught us a tremendous amount of what is needed in a deep space habitat, said Davis. We'll need things like environmental control and life support systems, ECLSS, power systems, docking ports, and airlocks so that crew can perform spacewalks to repair things that break or to add new capabilities. So expect big, robust equipment to travel across the stars to Mars during the first manned mission, because whatever the astronauts use must be up for the long journey. Davis also posed an interesting question. How much space is needed for each crew member? Could you imagine spending months in one location, surrounded by the same walls day in and day out? How far apart would they have to be to keep claustrophobia at bay? Based on this logic, it's possible that habitable bases on Mars will require more square footage for inhabitants. When you think of astronauts on Mars, what comes to mind? Did you picture a red planet turning green with time and continued human colonization? Unfortunately, those days are far in the future, if they even happen at all. During the interview, Davis explained, terraforming has a connotation of humans making another planetary body like Mars Earth-like. But really, it's about humans changing their environment to make it more supportive of our need. But what does this mean? Well, the first few trips to Mars will only include the essentials. Therefore, one of NASA's first goals for its astronauts is to learn how to live on the planet. Since it differs greatly from Earth, survival is an important skill for astronauts to master. One example Davis gave included preventing toxic dust from getting into the habitat and lab. Microbial life is another threat to astronauts. Without more research on the planet, NASA can't say for certain what dangers could threaten human life. With this in mind, all astronauts involved with the Mars mission will take these and other potential risks under consideration. After the NASA base is well established and the astronauts learn survival basics, things get more interesting. Eventually, since it costs so much to send things from Earth, we'll want a farm on Mars. Such a farm will really be greenhouses to protect the plants against the challenging Martian environment, said Davis. So keep in mind, the Martian soil isn't like the soil on Earth. Fortunately, it contains the minerals they require. Davis said that his team calls this soil regolith, and it will need to be cleansed of some toxic materials, and NASA scientists can get the job done. Now, detoxified soil isn't the only thing astronauts will need to grow plants. They'll also need to utilize the water from Mars's ice-capped poles. As of yet, there is no word about which pole will be more beneficial if there's a difference at all. Science fiction also does a great job helping the public imagine what this future mission will look like. The recent film The Martian portrayed the kinds of habitats NASA is investigating for Mars. 9 pieces of technology showcased in the movie are accurate to the kind of equipment astronauts on the planet will use. Coming to the next aspect of survival, keeping the food and medicine supplies stocked on Mars is the best way to make a habitat self-sustaining. But with a thin atmosphere and reduced sunlight, it can be difficult to get anything to grow. Artificial leaves designed to work in harsh conditions could offer a solution for first aid. These leaves made of silicone rubber can take a little bit of sunlight and turn it into enough power to fuel the necessary chemical reactions to make medicine and other compounds. In simple words, these leaves can use sunlight during the day on Mars, even though they are potentially exposed to more harmful UV rays. The channels inside the leaf are protected because your device can re-emit the energy it collects at a safer wavelength, which allows any chemical processes to take place. So, Mars has captured the imagination of humans for decades. These plans are just the next step in the process of getting the Mars mission from the drawing room floor to a funded mission with a launch date. NASA isn't the only ones with their eyes on Mars. Others are already coming up with their own plans for the Red Planet. Scientists and enthusiasts have speculated on everything from nuking the planet into habitability to creating a magnetic shield around the planet to encourage it to grow its own atmosphere. Mars is hopefully just our first step into the universe. Once we've dipped our toes into the solar system, it will be easier to expand out into the asteroid belt and beyond, as Mars's low gravity provides the perfect platform for constructing and launching other deep space vehicles. After we've got that foothold, the only thing holding us back is our technology. Those of us who have grown up watching the Apollo missions, space shuttles take off, and now the Falcon rockets climbing through the atmosphere likely won't see Mars colonized in our lifetimes. But that doesn't negate the wonder we all feel every time one of those rockets soars into the sky. It's not just a rocket, but a source of inspiration for generations to come, one of which will step foot on Martian soil. And this is it for today, guys. What are your thoughts on today's video? Share your views with us in the comments below. Also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell icon for more amazing videos about space. And thank you for watching.